Six Flags Over Texas is the original Six Flags park, going back to 1961, and they have one of the biggest coaster collections in the world. They are soon to have 14 coasters, some good, some not so good. But today, let's throw bias aside and look at the stats. Which one of their coasters is the tallest, fastest, longest, best paced? And we will rank them based on prime ride time. These are the coasters of Six Flags Over Texas, by the numbers. If you're new to the series, prime ride time starts when the front car picks up speed off the lift, and it ends when it hits the final brake run. For launch coasters, the clock starts when the launch starts, simple enough. Mid-course brake runs are left into the prime ride time, but if they slow down too much, that will crush the pacing. We will see that happen in this video. With the help of Google Maps and the Pythagorean theorem, I took out the lift, station, and brakes from the overall track length, so the number on your screen will not match what you see on RCDB. Before we get started, if you can drop this video a like, I'd appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. In 14th place with 16 seconds is Wile E. Coyote's Grand Canyon Blaster, a Chance Ride's Big Dipper. Yep, I think this is the first coaster in history where the name is longer than the ride itself. This is a kid's coaster, and a very simple one at that. It's last place in every single category, though not by much, as this is not the only coaster in the park that serves small kids. It has a spiral lift, and then wraps around itself in an oval. Not great for enthusiasts, but a perfect first coaster for kids. In 13th place with 23 seconds is Joker, an S&S free spin. When you're flipping around head over heels, 23 seconds feels like a long time. Anything more and people may throw up. It's got a max drop of 54 feet, which is 10th. Its max speed of 38 miles per hour is 9th, same with its pacing. All that is pretty good, but it covers only 701 feet of track, which puts it in second to last place. In 12th place with 26 seconds is Mini Mine Train, an Aero Mine Train. This is another tiny coaster for kids. Maybe a small step up from Wile E. Coyote. It's got about 4 extra feet in height, 5 miles per hour in speed, but almost 3 times the track. In fact, it's got 48 feet on the Joker, so it's 12th, and it's up at 10th in pacing, covering almost 29 feet per second. Not great, but compared to some of these other coasters in the park, it's got a decent rank. In 11th place with 36 seconds is Runaway Mountain, a Premier Rides indoor coaster. If you want a rare credit, this is one of the very few non-launch coasters built by Premier. It's entirely indoors, and it's a borderline family coaster. It's got a 65-foot twisted drop, ranking 7th, tops out at 40 miles per hour, ranking 8th. And you can see already, this coaster has a little bite. It only has a little over 1,200 feet of track, good for 9th, and it's 8th in pacing, just above Joker. In 10th place with 37 seconds is Batman the Ride, a B&M invert. We've seen this on a bunch of these videos. Every big Six Flags park has a bat clone, and it's the same old story. Not the most impressive coaster stat-wise, but it flies through its course. It's 4th in pacing, about 6 feet per second from the top spot. It's also 6th in height and speed and 5th in length. All those stats vastly outranking its 10th place finish in ride time. In 9th place with 39 seconds is Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast, a Premier Rides launch coaster. You don't really see Premier Rides coasters this big or this intense, so we're lucky to have this one, and its clone in St. Louis. It's a shuttle coaster, so you gotta take its length and double it. That's how 1,300 feet turns into 2,600, good for 4th place. I know it doesn't use every single foot of that track, and if you're in the front, you don't go as high as you do in the back, but it's the best I can do. Speaking of that spike, it stands 218 feet tall. That's good for 2nd place, and the launch hits 70 miles per hour, also 2nd. Mr. Freeze may take the silver in height and speed, but nothing else in the park is better paced. It covers 66.7 feet per second, more than 4 feet per second clear the rest of the field. The only slowdown is the top of the spike where the train stops and goes back down. In 8th place with 41 seconds is Pandemonium, a Gerstlauer spinner. This stands 53 feet tall, but it doesn't have much of a drop. It just kinda winds its way down, twisting and turning and spinning, picking up speed the whole way, but it can't go too fast or else it would make people throw up or pass out. Its max drop is only 27 feet, good for 12th, and it only hits 31 miles per hour, also 12th. This is a ride that can still feel off-the-wall crazy with bad-looking stats, kinda like Lost Coaster at Indiana Beach. It's 11th in length and pacing, so that's not great, but if you can get a ride with nobody sitting across from you, enjoy it. And good luck. I hope you didn't just have lunch. Also, after the train hits the final brakes, you usually keep spinning for a while. That adds some bonus ride time even when the train stops moving. In 7th place with 42 seconds is Aquaman Power Wave, a Mock Rides Power Splash. New for 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. At some point, this will finally open. The track's been there for years, but they keep finding reasons to delay it. We don't have a real POV, but we can use the animated one. Those are generally pretty accurate. This is like an impulse coaster, just with water. You launch backward, forward, backward, and forward again where you have the big splashdown. I tried to calculate how much track this really covers, and I came up with 2,006 feet. This puts it right in the middle in 7th place. Those spikes stand over 146 feet, all the way up in 4th place, and with a max speed of 62.1 miles per hour, it ranks 4th there also. Its pacing is also decent, covering 47.8 feet per second and ranking 6th. Like Mr. Freeze, it just slows down at the top of each one of those spikes. In 6th place with 47 seconds is lavibora, an intimate bobsled. You can compare this one to Pandemonium. It doesn't have much of a drop, it just winds its way down at 60-foot height. It doesn't have an official drop stat, so that 60 feet ranks it 9th in height. The cars are not attached to the track, so it can't go too crazy. That being said, it still feels out of control. Its 32-mile-an-hour top speed is 11th, and its 1,153 feet of track is 10th. This will go through a section of turns, then it'll straighten out in a brake run before starting the next section. This is necessary, but it kills the pacing. This covers only 24.5 feet per second, ranking 13th. In 5th place with 48 seconds is Judge Roy's Scream, a janky old wooden coaster. Go to over Texas, head into a tunnel, under the parking lot, leave the park, and ride this 42-year-old Woody. It's got a very simple out and back layout. It really doesn't get more basic than this. It's tied with Runaway Mountain at 7th place with a 65-foot drop, but it picks up 5 more miles per hour, also ranking 7th. It's got just over 2,000 feet of track, ranking 6th, and it's right in the middle of the pack in pacing at 42.1 feet per second. The one thing that stands out to kill the pacing is the big turnaround. In 4th place with 49 seconds is Shockwave, a Schwarzkopf looper. Again, the stats don't pop off the page, but this thing packs some power. It's one of the most intense coasters in the world, pulling 5.9 Gs in the double loops. It does this with a 116-foot drop, ranking 5th, and a top speed of 60 miles per hour, also 5th. It's one of the longer coasters in the park. After those loops, it has 2 nice airtime packed drops, and then a long drawn-out section of shallow dips and turns, so it's 3rd in length at just under 3,000 feet of track, and 3rd in pacing, just fractions of a second ahead of Batman the Ride. In 3rd place with 62 seconds is New Texas Giant, an RMC hybrid. This was a big 13-second jump from Shockwave, and New Texas Giant isn't only one of the longest coasters in the park, it's one of the longest RMCs in the world. RMC had a lot to work with when they converted this to a hybrid for the 2011 season, giving it a 147-foot drop, ranking 3rd, maxing out at 65 miles per hour, also 3rd, covering over 3,400 feet of prime ride track, ranking 2nd, but it's down at 5th in pacing, more than 5 feet per second behind Batman. This is no big shock. Even though it's a big RMC, that last lap runs pretty slow. It has some pretty high bank turns in the first half, but once it gets low to the ground, it doesn't have a whole lot left, so it's gonna knock down its pacing. In 2nd place with 71 seconds is Titan, a Giovanola Hyper. When it comes to coasters, Titan dominates the skyline. It's one of the tallest coasters in the world, that 255-foot drop being tops in the park, and 37 feet clear of Mr. Freeze. At the bottom of that drop, it hits 85 miles per hour. That's 15 miles per hour clear of the rest of the field. Titan also has the edge in length by almost 1,000 feet. Its 4,400 feet just dwarfs the 2nd place New Texas Giant. But when it comes to pacing, Titan takes 2nd fiddle. At 62.1 feet per second, it's more than 4 feet per second behind Mr. Freeze, and I blame the mid-course brake run. I watched 2 separate POVs, and in both of them, it was pretty harsh. The train comes to a near stop before the finale. I'm sure they do this so people won't pass out in the helix, but still, it slams into those brakes and it takes a while to get its speed back. In 1st place with 76 seconds is Runaway Mine Train, an Aero mine train. You want an old school steel coaster. This was the 2nd coaster Aero ever built, and the 2nd coaster to feature a tubular steel track. After 56 years, it's still the coaster that offers the most prime ride time in the park. You can imagine why this is. It has 3 lift hills. That's right, 3. And it doesn't move very fast off them. It's down at 12th place in pacing, about a quarter foot better than lavibora. Its 35-foot height is 11th, and that last drop right before the brake run is by far the best. It's also 35 miles per hour, good for 10th, and it has nearly 1,900 feet of prime ride track, right in the middle in 8th place. This is one example of the longest coaster in the park earning that title just because it runs slow. That's a wrap on the coasters of Six Flags Over Texas, by the numbers. Let me know if anything surprised you here, or confirmed something you already knew. This park has a great variety of rides, from your tall speed machines like Titan and New Texas Giant, to your twisted windy coasters like Pandemonium and lavibora, to your shuttle coasters like Mr. Freeze and Aquaman. I figured Titan and Mr. Freeze would dominate the stat sheet, but I was surprised that Runaway Mine Train had a decent stat line, and that the oldest Aero mine train was the longest coaster in the park. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please consider giving me a sub. I have a playlist with other videos in this format. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my 2nd channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you love baseball like I do. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.